Good afternoon. My name is Steve Gouin. I am a resident of Lacey Township, and I am running for the Lacey Township School Board in 2025. I've been a resident of Lacey Township since 2013. I moved here with my wife. My wife is from Lacey Township originally, born and raised. Went to Forked River Elementary School, went to Lacey Township High School, came up through the Lacey Township Elementary and Education System, and ultimately went to Villanova University. That's where we met. We both graduated from Villanova. Spent a little bit of time in North Jersey. After graduating from Villanova, I went to Rutgers Newark Law School in Newark. And then in 2013, we moved down here when we wanted to start a family. So we currently have two kids, Stephen and Alex. Both are in the Lacey Township elementary schools. Alex is in kindergarten. Stephen is in fourth grade at the Forked River School. I also have gotten involved in the community for the last several years, coaching baseball, basketball, currently flag football, which keeps me plenty busy. But I started to pay attention to the school board since my kids are in school, and really following some of the issues that were surrounding the budget last year, and felt that some of the things that I do in my day-to-day work might be useful for the school board. Some of my experiences might be useful for the school board, and ultimately, hopefully, for the residents of Lacey, and certainly for the children that are attending schools. My background as an attorney, I represent mostly business owners, real estate developers, and other interests in real estate matters. Primarily, my work focuses on redevelopment of contaminated properties, landfills, brownfields. I do a lot of renewable energy work, and I've been involved in some major redevelopment projects across the state, industrial, commercial, and residential, in addition to the renewable energy. Most of my practice is transactional, which means I do a lot of transactional real estate matters and also real estate finance. I get involved in local tax issues, pilots, redevelopment matters, and I act as general counsel to several different companies. So I do have the experience in running a company alongside the business owners themselves. I thought that in watching what was going on at the board, I felt that all might be relevant experience to sort of help the board navigate some of the issues that they're dealing with over the last several years. And I'm hoping that everybody will consider me and give me a chance as a board member.
With the influx of many new students throughout numerous grade levels, how do you plan to deal with the large class sizes and teacher-to-student ratios?
So, that's an excellent question. Believe it or not, the student-teacher ratio was the biggest thing that I was focused on when I started attending the board meetings. My son Alex I was fortunate enough, my son Alex was in the preschool program for the last 2 years, so his classes were relatively small. But last year, Stephen was in third grade, and his class size was somewhere in the 30 range. Now it's 34, 35. And, frankly, I went to public school when I was a kid. I went public elementary school, public high school, and, I was fortunate enough to grow up in Vermont. The class size is relatively small because we don't have as much people in Vermont. But that public education afforded me the opportunity to go to a private university, to go to law school, and to have the career I have. I think it's really important that kids are getting individualized attention in school. So how do we deal with it? I mean, we have limited options, right? Like, obviously, we can take a look at what existing resources we have currently and see how we could potentially reallocate them to make sure that we're educating people as efficiently as possible, that the rooms that need the extra help are getting the extra help, teachers that need the extra help are getting the extra help, and that we're positioning the teachers in a position that they can do the best job they possibly can, even with the existing class sizes. But ultimately, the long-term solution is that we're going to have to get more resources to those classes and get the class sizes to something that are going to be reasonable. Because I think if you talk to any teacher, you're going to hear that, especially in the lower grades, maybe not as much in high school, but in the lower grades, it's very difficult to teach a room full of 30, 35 kids, and especially if some of those kids needs individualized attention. So that's something that I'm very focused on, and something that I would make a priority.
If the referendum does not pass, will you continue to push for the referendum that will fix school issues and make a better environment for learning?
Um, First of all, I hope that the referendum does pass because, frankly, just from a financial perspective, I think that it makes the most sense. You're getting, if you're doing this by way of referendum, you're getting a significant amount of that money in terms of relief from the state. You're getting a lot of that money back in terms of relief from the state. And to take advantage of that, I think, is being fiscally responsible. I think, one of the unfortunate things is there's a lot of misinformation, and you see it if you pay attention to social media, if you pay attention to any of the things get distributed around town. And it's very easy, I think, for that misinformation to get out there and to make people think that, oh, we're borrowing more money, it's just more money that's going to be wasted. First of all, I think that obviously anytime you're taking out a loan like that, which is effectively what it is, there's a requirement for the school district and for the board to be fiscally responsible with that money. So we got to make sure that whatever we're spending the money on, we're doing it, pursuant to a budget that we've got the opportunity to review. We're making sure we're spending it on things that are absolutely necessary, and we're making sure that we're not spending more than we necessarily have to, right? If the referendum doesn't pass, yes, because I think this building that we're in, I think all of the different school buildings, they were built 50, 60 years ago, some of them. So they all need improvements. We can't be expecting to send our kids to school and to learn in an environment where, things are happening like the roof is leaking and stuff like that. And so that what they're coming home talking about is the problems at school rather than what they're learning. So we've got to be doing things and we got to be looking for other opportunities, I think, other than just spending through bond referendums and borrowing money. We got to be looking at all options to be able to address these problems. But certainly that's a fiscally responsible way to solve some of the major infrastructure issues that we have.
If you're elected as a board member, what would be the first change you would make for the district and why? First, in response to that, I would like to say that I think people need to keep in mind that the people who are serving on the school board are doing it on a volunteer capacity. At the end of the day, none of those people are making any money by spending time on the school board, and they're doing it because I think they're doing it because they think they're doing it in the best interest of the residents and of the students, and they're volunteering their time. So I take nothing away from what they've done or everything that they've had to deal with over the past several years, because they have had to deal with very difficult circumstances, particularly in the case of the amendment to the school funding formula that's taken a lot of money away from Lacey Township. That's been a huge obstacle, and I think the board has done the best that it can under very difficult circumstances. That being said, I think the one change that I would like to make, and I know it's difficult, but I would like to have it there to be, we need to build back some public trust in the board. That, and I'm not saying that's the current board member's fault. I think, like I said before, there's a lot of disinformation that gets out there. But I think we need to do an aggressive campaign to sort of build back that public trust. Tell people, look, this is exactly what's going on. These are the circumstances that we're facing. Come at it from a point of, here are the facts on the ground. This is what we're actually dealing with. This is our proposal to solve it. We understand that people are going to differ in terms of what the solutions are going to be. But at the end of the day, at least if we can all agree on what the problems are, if we can all come to some set of facts that, like, these are the problems we're dealing with, we could have a discussion about what the best way is to fix it. But I think we all need to get on the same page, and I think that's the one thing that I would try to do, is to get more of a position where we can interact with the public on a constructive way. As a possible member of the board, how do you plan to help keep the best quality staff members here at Lacey Township School District?
Well, I think that the answer to that question basically starts and ends with we've got to do the best we can to fix the things that are broken right now. Again, I met with the Lacey Township Education Association the other day, and I told them that every single year that my sons have gone to school, they've come home and said their teacher this year is their favorite teacher ever.
And that's because I think that there are a lot of great teachers in Lacey Township, and I think that we have a lot of talent in the schools and a lot of people who really want to do the right things. That being said, those teachers are only going to be, or their potential is only going to be as good as the resources that they are provided. So if we can't afford to provide the teachers with the kind of resources that they need to, reach that maximum potential to educate our students, it's going to be very hard for them. And I think that, you're going to see teachers not want to stay because they're going to go to a district. You're going to get talented teachers that want to leave to go to a district that have better resources, that can afford to provide them with opportunities, or can afford to provide their kids with opportunities. I mean, basic stuff like, having materials that have like the current curriculum, that seems like that should be like a baseline that we should be providing our kids and our teachers. So these are the kind of things that, I know it's not easy, and I know that people don't want to hear that, oh, we're going to have to spend more and more and more on education. But trust me, from my perspective of doing real estate development all over the state, the absolute number one thing that we can do as a town to maintain the quality of life that we have in this town is invest in our education system. If we have a plus education system in town, then you're going to have a plus community. You're going to have a community that people want to be. You're going to retain teachers. And ultimately, I think that should be everybody's goal in Lacey Township. So I appreciate you having me today. Appreciate the opportunity to give some of my perspective on how we can address some of the things that we're dealing with in the education system in Lacey currently. Like I said during the interview, I think that this is a great town. I feel fortunate that I've been able to call this my home for the last 13 years and really adopt it as my home over the last 13 years. And I'm fortunate that this is the place where my kids are going to grow up. I think that, we have all of the baseline resources that we need. Like I said, we've got great teachers, we've got great people in the schools. It's just a matter of making sure that we're providing those people the resources that they need in order to provide our kids with the best education possible. I really believe in public education. I think that public education still is the backbone of our state, of our economy, of our country, frankly. And I believe that, we as a town and we as a society, we owe it to each generation to make sure that we are providing a quality public education to the generation below us. So with that, I'm going to do everything I can, if elected to the board, to make sure that that's the case. And I'm going to do it within the confines of what we have to do. I understand that, it can't always be a blank check because, of course, all of the costs of the public education are going to fall on the residents. I understand that people are unhappy about the way that the taxes have been handled over the last couple of years, and we've seen increases and increases and increases. I think we need to be creative. I think we do need to take advantage of things like the bond referendum and taking advantage of any relief we can get from the state where we can get it. And otherwise, we've got to explore the options to do the kinds of things that I'm talking about, but do it in a fiscally responsible way that's not going to put too much burden on the rest of the township. It's a very tall ask. I know that the current board has been struggling with that, for the past several years. There's no easy solution. It's not something that's going to get fixed in 1 year or 2 years necessarily, but I'm hoping that if I'm elected to the board, I can offer some of my experience, some of my expertise, hopefully bring some new ideas, and maybe put us on a path to a long-term solution to address some of these issues. Thank you.